My name is Rulyn Howard. I'm a Certification and Compliance Officer for the Department of Procurement Services, and here to have a presentation today to discuss Compliant Documentation 101. As asked before, if you have any questions, we'd like you to try to hold them to the end of the presentation. But if you see something blaring at you, we may be able to stop and discuss it right then. But it's preferred that we write our questions down and save them to the end of the presentation. Also with me today is the manager of the Certification and Compliance team, British Osage, sitting back there in the corner over there. As part of the introduction, we'd like to state that the City of Chicago remains committed to the growth and development of small, minority, and women-owned businesses, enterprises, and have pursued every opportunity to ensure that the city's procurement process remains fair, inclusive, transparent, and efficient. Compliance is a pivotal component at DPS. It includes a three-step process: contract goal setting, compliance review of bids, proposals, monitoring of the contract MBEWBE and DBE, EEO, CRO, and local area requirements. And finally, contract closeout. Step 1 is the pre-award requirement. Our contract goals are set on a project-by-project basis. The MBE and WBE or DBE direct opportunities identified based on the scope of work and detailed specifications. Contract goals are inserted into each specification, and percentages can range from 0% to 100%, which is considered a target market. Proper compliance, plan submittal. A bid or proposal may be rejected as non-responsive if the bidder fails to submit one or more of the following with its bid or proposal: an MBEWBE or DBE compliance plan demonstrating how the bidder planned to meet the contract-specific goals, or the Schedule D, and/or documentation of good faith efforts, and/or a request for reduction of waivers of the contract-specific goals. Schedules: good faith effort and waivers. The Schedule B is the MBEWBE Affidavit of Joint Venture. Schedule C, which most of the subcontractors are familiar with, is the MWBE or DBE Letter of Intent to perform as a subcontractor, supplier, or a second-tiered subcontractor. It also should incorporate their letter of certification and a copy of the agreed proposal or quote. The Schedule D is the compliance plan, usually submitted by and always submitted by the prime contractor. It's the compliance plan regarding the MBE, WB, or the DBE participation. Schedule H is the documentation of good faith effort, and that is for construction projects. And finally, a request to or waiver of the MBE or WBE goals. Step 2. Post-award requirements. Contract monitoring. Contract award and contract monitoring begins. Contract Compliance Unit has a shared responsibility with the city's user department for monitoring the participation of certified minority women and disadvantaged business enterprises. The unit is also responsible for the monitoring of equal employment opportunity and the Chicago residency requirement, as well as the local area residency requirements. Counting participation. Only payments made to the MBEs, WBE, and DBE firms that meet both the commercially useful function and area specialty requirements will be counted toward the contract-specific goals. The MBE, WBE, DBE self-performs using its own workforce and equipment. 100% of the value of the work is counted. The MBE, WBE is a manufacturer. 100% of the expenditure is counted. And the MBEWBE is a distributor or supplier. 60% of the expenditure is counted. Sub-agreements. No later than 3 business days after the receipt of an executed contract, the contractor must execute a complete subcontract agreement or purchase order with each MBE or WBE or DBE listed on the contractor's Schedule D. No later than 8 business days after the receipt of the executed contract, the contractor must provide copies of each subcontract, purchase order, or other agreements to the Department of Procurement Services. Changes to the compliance plan. No changes to the compliance plan or contractual MBE, WBE, or DBE commitments or substitutions or of MBE, WBE, or DBE subcontracts may be made without prior written approval from the Chief Procurement Officer. Unauthorized changes or substitutions, including performing the work designated for a subcontractor with the contractor's own forces, shall be a violation of the MBE, WBE, or DBE special conditions and a breach of the contract with the City of Chicago, and may cause termination of the executed contract for breach and or subject the contractor to contract remedies or other sanctions. No bid shopping is allowed. Reporting. During the term of the contract, the contractor must submit partial and final waivers of lien from all of his subcontractors, especially on construction projects. The prime and his subcontractors will be responsible for reporting payments into the city's Certification and Compliance System, which is C2. And after this presentation this afternoon, there'll be an overview of C2 at, I believe it's at 3:15. The prime and his subcontractors will be responsible for reporting payments into the city's Certified and Compliance System, C2. And the prime and his subcontractors will be responsible for submitting certified payroll documentation into the city's Certified Payroll Processing System, and we also call that or refer to it as LCP Tracker. C2, MBE, WBE, DBE payment reporting. The Certification and Compliance C2 network system is a web-based tool that provides online tracking of payments made to the prime contractor, online tracking of payments made to the MWDBE firms, and online verification of MWDBE payments. Site visits. Announced and unannounced site visits are performed by field analysts. While on site at each construction location, they'll meet with the resident engineer or the project manager and request to receive the daily work schedule and observe the duties being performed by the subcontractors and its workers. It is expected that both the contractor's employees and its subcontractors will cooperate fully in this monitoring process. CPPS, or the Certified Payroll Monitoring Reporting Systems. We also refer to this as LCP Tracker as well. This is a complete automated web-based system specifically designated for prime contractors and their subcontractors. The CPPS system allows for the management of labor compliance, Davis-Bacon, and prevailing wage processes. It also validates local, state, and federal Davis-Bacon prevailing wage regulations. Payroll data may be entered directly into the system or uploaded from major construction, accounting, and payroll programs. This eliminates the need for paper documentation to be submitted. All contract specific wages, rates, and worker classifications are online within the system, and contractors select classifications from a menu. Potential errors in wage rates or worker classifications entries are flagged into the contractor's preemptively allowing the contractors to correct data prior to the submittal of the payroll. Contract closeout. In the event of noncompliance and without limitation, the following shall constitute a material breach of the contract between the city and the contractor and entitle the city to declare default, terminating the contract and exercise those remedies provided for in the contract at law or in equity. Failure to demonstrate good faith effort is 1, and 2, disqualification as an MBE or WBE of the contractor or any joint venture partner, subcontractor, supplier, if its status as an MBE or WBE was a factor in the award of the contract and such status was misrepresented by the contractor. Contract closeout continued. Payments due to the contractor may be withheld until corrective action is taken. In the city, if the city determines that the contractor was not if the city determines that the contractor has not made good faith efforts to fulfill its compliance plan, the effective MBE or WBE may recover damages from the contractor. Failure to meet the EO commitment will result in liquidated damages, and failure to meet the CRO local residency requirements may result in liquidated damages as well. And finally, follow us on Facebook or tweet us at twitter.com, City of Chicago DPS, which will allow you any updates or changes. Do you have any questions? Well, what brought everyone in today? Good. Could you state your name?
My name is Christina Gallagher, and I'm with Landry & Brown. And recently, I have been asked to do our compliance work. And I noticed that on one of the contracts, I went into that BG2 now,
C2 system.
And for noise compliance, we have a noise contract, and I was able to input everything into the system under that contract. But then I saw a couple of other of our projects that are listed in that system, but we don't have the subcontractors listed in the vendor portal
Profile?
there.
Sure.
So I was actually going to write a letter to you and ask that, is there some way that you need to do, how do we start the process? Because I can see that the contract is in the system, but the subcontractors aren't listed. Do I need to send you a listing of all the subcontractors that need to be entered that are DBE, or actually this project is MBE and WBE?
Mm-hmm.
And then you enter them, and then I'm able to do that on a monthly basis then going forward?
First step.
First step.
The first step would be to contact me.
Okay,
If you contact me or any other certification compliance officer, then what we'll do is take a look and see what type of contract it is in the C2 system. Once it's determined what type of contract it is, then we'll go to the web, which houses all the contracts, the city contracts, and we'll pull up the original contract to see what the goals are, to determine what the goals are on the contract, as well as identify what subcontractors should be on the project. Once we determine that, then we would work with you to make sure that those subcontractors, they have not changed. They're performing as it's contract performing as designed. We'll upload the subcontractors into the C2 system, and then you should be able to begin reporting.
Question part two.
Part two, sure.
So this contract is a task order contract.
All right.
So it's an overarching contract, and then we're awarded task orders underneath that contract. Will each task order have its own separate grouping of subcontractors underneath it? Because not all of our subcontractors are the same for each task order.
Task orders are a little different. The way that it's set up in C2, it would be set up the same, but as far as performance, based on what the task is required for that particular order, it would determine which one of those subs that has been identified for performance will work on that task order. So it's slightly different.
So
Does that answer your question?
I think so. So it will be broken out by task order, because I wasn't sure if it would be even broken out or broken out by task order, or maybe by blanket release, which is even a subdivision of the task order.
C2 is set up pretty standard. And it would identify all of the subcontractors that are to perform on the contract. As the task is identified, then, and I think I'm saying this again, that as the task is identified, that whatever subcontractor is going to perform that piece of work would be identified, and credit would be identified for that piece of work that would work up to the original goal.
So just to add on to that, let the starting point, and I could give you my card at the end and Berlin's contact information as well. Providing us with the contract number or task order number is going to be the starting point, because we're going to be able to see which way it goes from the research that would be done.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Sure. I'm sorry.
I'm Ryan Kennedy of Phil Penn Constructing. My question is really on Schedule D compliance. I should say, in what instances are you allowed to either supplement your plan with additional MBEWBs, or in what instances are you allowed to make a substitution or a replacement? Can you give examples of when it might be appropriate? For example, obviously, not talking about bid shopping or pricing discussion,
Sure.
but in what instances do you find the company supplement to replace?
Sure.
I just had one
All right.
before coming down here,
Oh,
so
right.
I'm just going to run with it and
Yeah.
think of other ideas as
Sure.
well. A certified firm goes out of business. A certified firm, the owner had passed away. That's a situation where obviously you would want that replacement in order to get credit. That company is no longer in business. So really the answer is when the need presents itself, right? Of course, if there's an opportunity to supplement and exceed the goals, because I look at the goals as a minimum, not a maximum. So if there is that opportunity, do it.
Right.
If there is a need where you have to change the compliance plan, you have to be able to document what that need is, all of the efforts. It comes down to the good faith efforts as well as to what justifies that change, what actions you have taken, and how you plan on remedying it. But it has to be reviewed. It's not an automatic approval.
Okay.
Would you add to that?
I would add only to say that, and for anyone here that is a subcontractor as well, and this is one of my favorites, you are allowed to perform the work, but you're only granted credit for what you're certified in. So if there's work that needs to be done, and this speaks to the prime contractor as well, the goal is to complete the project, okay? That is the goal, and we understand that. And as a subcontractor, if anyone is a sub in the room as well, if you're out there doing something, then yes. If the prime asks you something that you can perform it. But as far as us granting credit for it, we're only going to grant credit for work that's identified on your certification letter. So what your NATE codes speak to, then we can grant you credit for that. They can still perform the work, though.
So I don't want to get too specific to our company, but for example, we're working on a sewer project here in the city, and most of the time we use a minority saw cutting firm. So we didn't list them originally on our Schedule D, and we've used them for a certain amount of work on this project anyway. Obviously, looking back ahead of time, we should have put them on the Schedule D. But if we wanted to supplement our original plan, let's say the original goal was 26%. If we added them to the plan, then we'd probably increase our goal to a higher percentage, or could you kind of use them in your...
Any changes to a compliance plan, whether it be an addition or the removal, has to be approved.
Right, so assuming we got it approved, then would you bump up your target percentage, so to say, or could you use...
Yeah, that's what you would be held to.
Okay.
I'm Paul from Joel Kennedy Construction. When you do go through your Schedule Ds, does the city sort of bless the activities that are listed, or does it come through during the sort of audit process for construction activities that a sub will do?
Is this...
I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. I might have 5 contractors that are going to bid for activity number X. And when you look under the numbers that they're actually certified in under the federal stand, the numbers, they'll be slightly different. But they all do the same thing. But when the city, when the city goes and says, okay, this company's going to do concrete work, does the city say, yeah, I looked at their number, is that what compliance does? I was just sort of curious.
Yeah, I mean, we do everything. So before a contract is awarded, we thoroughly review the compliance plans. We look at both the Schedule Cs that subcontractors are supposed to be completing and submitting independent of the prime contractor's Schedule D, which is the actual compliance plan. So the Schedule C should be able to identify at minimum two things. One, the work that they're doing, and an explained, elaborate description of what that work is. And it should also be able to relate to the schedule of prices that are within that bid as well. So if I'm a subcontractor and I'm going to be doing painting, I should be able to point to line item 1 through 5 and say I'm painting as it relates to line items 1 through 5. In addition, my certification should also point to me being able to paint. That's not me being a paint supplier, that's me actually being a painter.
So in substance, the Schedule C should memorialize the deal, that if you look at it from a party perspective,
I would want to see them relate the Schedule C and D.
Right, oh, of course, right.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I mean, my only other follow-up question, I have some companies we work with give me, I mean, most of the companies that we've worked with in the past are city certified, MBEWBE. Who does the DB certification? I'll see those come across on occasion. Is that through Cook County or the state or through the city as well?
It's city as well and multiple other agencies.
We will review them, but again, if it's an M&W contract, but they only have their DB certification, there's still those goals that need to be fulfilled by an M&W contractor.
I got you. So they don't necessarily
Cross.
It
No.
just happened probably in the last, 10 years, they've always been MWD, that it was the minority woman businesses, not DB, but maybe that's just like the contracts that we worked on.
It's the contract type, the funding source as well.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're
What other
welcome.
questions? So who here is, Joel Kennedy, primes, are there any other primes or subs?
GFE.
Okay. What have your experiences been with submitting compliance plans?
I'm just getting involved with this.
Okay.
And working for Hood and other companies. I'm just not involved with the city. That's why I'm here now.
Very good.
Learning everyone now.
There's a lot of workshops weekly, right? You
Yeah.
have the
Yeah,
schedule,
yeah.
so get involved. Very good.
The compliance, though, is I think where we get kind of rubs a bit is that it's not so much overlooked, but it's kind of like, well, we're finally here, let's just get it done. But the time needs to be taken with the schedules in order to see because the field analyst goes out and he actually views what's going on outside. We need to see, based on what we see on the paper, what you're actually performing. So the story should be on the paper for us. If it's not on the paper and we have questions, it slows down the process at the beginning and the end.
I have a question. So, this ain't my company. If you're a GC and, like, I'm multi-trained, I'm a journeyman in about 6 trades, but the companies who are not a journeyman, does that make a difference on how they're going to qualify as far as what they put on their certificate?
So
let's say if you're just a painting company only, but you're trying to get involved with all the other stuff like the electrical, you want to just sub it out. You don't plan on doing it. Does it make a difference? With the GC himself, does he have to be trained in all the trades, or can you just be a GC?
Are you when you say that as a GC,
General contractor.
are you looking to be awarded
Yeah.
a contract?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
but if you're looking to be awarded something that does have multiple jobs in it, as a prime, do you have to have that experience in all those jobs?
I would say that you would have to have the experience or be able to identify the experience in order to perform the work. Would you?
I know some of the contracts we've done in the past, there's a minimum, the GC has to perform a minimum percentage of the overall contract.
Okay.
So if you're a painter and you bid a contract, it's only 5% painting, performing a certain overall value of the contract. You don't have to be, I don't think, per se certified for it. But.
No, not certified in it, but if you were certified in it, then you could qualify as the GC and self-perform on the contract as well.
You had a question?
Trucking.
No?
So, my name is John Gross at the Paving, and we've been shying away from using trucking because the brokers are a little, you know, they have to be owned by the company. What we've ended up doing is giving away our work, which we don't want to do, with another paver to make up the difference. It seems like the rules have been changing, and we see how it reads. So we're, you know, okay, they got to own and operate that truck and under their controlled account to the 100% value, and not broker it. And I'm just wondering, is it being enforced?
That's a great question.
It is.
It's a really interesting topic that we continue to have discussions about. So the first point that I want to make is with the trucking firms, and I want you to add into
Sure.
this, is that if I'm a trucking firm and I own one truck, I could lease one other truck. So it's a one-for-one count for that credit.
For
At
100%.
100%. If I own 10 trucks and I lease 10 trucks, then I get credit for that 20, right? So it's one for one. Assuming that I lease it from a M or W or a DBE
Certified firm.
certified firm. So I would keep that in mind. What is important to us is knowing how many trucks are intended to be utilized on the project by that trucking firm. And of those trucks, how many are owned, how many are leased, and who employs those drivers. And what I've found with talking to both primes and, you know, trucking firms performing at the sub-level is that they don't really know the work that's going to be done until they're called out for that job. It could be they're out there for a week. It could be out there for months. It could be out there at the onset of that project, and that's it, because they just need to the demo, the removal, right? So with that said, as far as the enforcement, what is your...
I guess the enforcement of the one-to-one, you know, we don't want to be, you know, we don't like to give away our work. If that's the rule and that's what everyone's definitely following, you know, that's the way it is.
That's the way we're counting credit. That's the way we're looking at it. And we have our field analysts. So in the slides here, we have our field analysts who goes and attends announced and unannounced site visits. We're looking at trucking firms. We're taking pictures. We're seeing all, we're seeing all the, you know, our field analysts are our eyes to the projects. And we count on that information and that documentation. So I believe that we are enforcing. I'm confident in that.
I would agree 100%. I think that it gets complicated when we question, when we ask the questions. And I almost would think that it was because, for whatever reason, it doesn't, that's something that doesn't want to, you don't want to necessarily share that. If you're a trucking firm, not sure why, but you don't want that information shared. But I think it helps us to identify who's actually doing it, how the work is being performed, especially if you're going to get participation credit for it, especially.
So part two of that is some of the bids are structured with a goal of 33% on the M's. Well, if you take all, it's forcing us to give away our work, and I'm just wondering how is it analyzed ahead of time? Like, we're giving away all the pavement marking, all the concrete, and you get to the point where there's nothing left to give
away, the clients on the job are structured that you have to give away your own work. So who comes up with the percentages?
Clarify how, and I'm missing some, just this, when you said you're giving away your work. Tell me,
We're giving away asphalt paving work, and that's what we do. And I think the same thing has happened to the sewer guys too. There's nothing else to give away but your own work to meet the requirements.
I'm missing it. I'm missing it. The requirements are established when the spec is identified, right? What am I missing? I'm missing something.
I think John's point is the generals are getting pressured with that number on the scope of work
Okay.
and the ancillary work. The gains, an expert in their bread and butter is asphalt paving. They can do all the other things. They sub out all the trucking, all the marking, all the concrete, curb work, flat work. It's not
Traffic
adding
control. And you add all those together, and you still can't hit that 30% unless we give away our asphalt work.
So, what I would say, and I want you to keep adding to it,
Sure.
I can't comment on how you submit your bids or what work you decide what firm is going to do what, right? Which subcontractor. When we went through the schedules, if you're not meeting your goals in your compliance plan, there's documentation. Is there a need for a waiver? The good faith efforts there. It's all.
That's a risk of just losing the work though. So we give away our primary work just to meet the plan. Been in meetings similar to this years ago, and no one in this room.
Sure.
But I asked, could you submit a waiver? He goes, go ahead.
We've
But it's not
never
gonna
heard
work.
one being
That's
approved.
right,
Really?
On the onside, it's like hit the number.
correct. So you're kind of wasting your time putting the waiver, and then you risk losing the job just because you did. So you might as well figure out a way to do it.
I mean, the goal is to obviously do your bid and utilize and reach or exceed the goals. If you need to submit that waiver, if you need to submit and document your good faith efforts that you tried to and you couldn't, those are all reviewed. I guarantee you that we do review those when they are submitted. It's not an automatic toss out.
This was 10 years ago.
It's different.
So you have accepted a bid not meeting the goal.
Well, that's a different question. We have reviewed for those requests, and we have.
Sure.
I mean, we receive waiver requests all the time.
But the contract has been awarded to someone who submitted a waiver.
Are you with me?
I am with you, and
I mean, a waiver is, there is no complaint percentage. A reduction is, we wanted 30, and we'll accept you at 28.
and
That's the way I understand it.
I'm listening to you now, and the way that you've presented it would suggest that a waiver would be considered. I can't say, because I'm not looking at anything, but based on what you presented, it would be certainly something to review and consider. I mean, be simply based on our expectation to comply with what we're requesting from trucking firms. If there's an unknown there, and it's non-spoken, then we need to hear it in order to address it. We can't work off of what we don't know, and what we're requesting is impact. There's an impact there. If we're not aware of the impact, then we can't do anything about it. Does that sounds like a gray area,
Yeah.
or a blurred? It sounds blurred.
I'm sure it's other trades too. Say it was a painting contract, and there's very little ancillary work to give up. So he's giving away paint. He wanted to use a painter. Just doesn't make sense.
Let's look.
Like the different trades involved that do that work. To make up
I
the
agree,
goal.
I agree. Where could we find more opportunities? How could the spec be broken up in order to produce more opportunities for firms to participate? Absolutely.
Like I got jobs, typically you can see that it was well thought out. You add up all the pieces, other than like the main contract, like say it was a sewer job, other than the sewer work, it magically almost hits the number, the percentage that they look for on an IDOT job.
What is the, Rodney, you may know, the contract admin workshop that they do here? What's the title of it? I think that's going to be the better one for you.
And it's help with the user agency that you know, has got to make it work, you know, because they're the ones who put out the money.
Yep. We'll get that information, but I think that's the better route to go.
And we're going to take this back as well and see if there's something that, well, I'm going to take it back along with Bridget and see if there's something that I don't know about that, because it's just, when you present it that way, it doesn't sound like it's a win-win for everyone, which it should be.
We've been using a minority supplier for our paper goods and office supplies. And I thought I saw that it said during that scrolling that we can get up to 60% credit for that, but I thought on another piece of paper that I saw that we could only get like 20 or 30% for that. Can you expound a little bit more on suppliers and vendors that supply us with like goods?
What kind of, and you know, I'm going to ask some questions like what kind of contract is it? Is the performance direct or indirect? Is it
Supply. So this isn't directly associated
professional
with any
services?
particular contract. But I thought that there was like indirect participation of minorities that could be gained by something like that.
You could, yes and no, and it just depends really on what the type of contract it is, what is the mostly that, and that we'd be able to identify that you weren't able to find any other contractors that met whatever in regards to indirect performance. Then you could consider using a supplier of paper goods or copier services to offset or balance the participation credit.
Okay, so that would be the only case to be.
That would be, in general terms, that's what I would say.
So I didn't hear your answer.
Sure.
But just to clarify, so the 60% credit is how it's counted. So if you are contracting $100 worth of supplies, credit, and you're paying them $100 worth of the supplies they've provided, participation credit would only be given for $60, right? But it is still contract specific. So if you're utilizing a supplier and wanting participation credit towards that, it is specific to a contract. I think, and I want to look into this, there may be bid incentives. Is that what you were referring to?
No, I just thought that this could be an extra way to get some extra credit, if you will,
Okay.
towards a contract or a project.
So an example might be if I was an AE firm and I was utilizing a printing or paper company for the production of my work, and that's what I was contracted for. It would seem as if that's a direct expense to the work that's being contracted, and I should be getting a credit for that, especially if the supply company is in your directory and certified.
In general terms, you would get credit for that, and more than likely it would be at 60%.
If it's directly tied to the contract of the work that's under consideration.
In general, yes.
For 60%.
At 60%, yeah.
Yes.
Whatever the requirements are, because that's required to do work. It's like if a labor carpenter was buying wood from a pallet company or wood, they should get credit because that's directly required for them to be able to go
At 60%.
It's 60%, absolutely. But if it's directly applied, it should, I would think, count. That's 60%.
Yes. And in general terms. Yes, in general terms. That's safe. Any other questions? You can't think of anything? So you're satisfied with our performance? Would you come back again?
You know, I do want to clarify one thing with the compliance plans, both primes and subs here. Don't be alarmed if you receive questions from compliance, from us, in regards to your compliance plan. If we're looking for additional information, if we're looking to verify Schedule Cs, if we're looking to see the quotes or proposals that you had submitted and signed, that's our due diligence. That's what we do in making sure that everyone's on the same board as far as the expectations for actually executing the work that's intended to be performed. If there's questions about certification in your area of specialty, we're going to ask them. And it really is just to protect all those involved and make sure that everything is as flawless as possible, ideally. So, any questions? And I know we're going to be talking about C2 later this afternoon, but any questions about LCP Tracker, our certified payroll processing system, submitting payrolls?
7.5% requirement.
The local residency, Chicago residency, anything? Okay.
That's good.
That's wonderful.